Hi pals! If you're new here or lurking, my name's Mick, spelled M-I-K. Please subscribe if that's something you want to do. If it isn't, that's hurtful, but I understand. If you're not new here, hi, welcome back. Thanks for coming. Today I thought I'd show you my watercolour painting process. Partly because watercolour is supposed to be my main medium and I've done none of it here on my channel yet, and partly because I can't do tutorials yet. Just in case you're not one of the 3 friends I have in real life and you don't know anything about me, here's a bit of a background of my art journey, I guess you'd call it. Like most of us, I was introduced to art in primary school and I always felt like it was something I really connected with. I love drawing cartoony girls, and when I found anime, I started drawing those too. I fell in love with Bleach and I watched hundreds of episodes on YouTube before my attention span crapped out and I gave up around the 250 mark, where I had endured as many uneventful episodes of Ichigo staring down his next hollow before brutally murdering it as I possibly could. Despite that I never finished it, Bleach definitely inspired my art style well into high school, where honestly I didn't do much regimented art at all. I took a couple of early classes and I drew a lot on my own time, but I found art class itself too restrictive. Like, they were telling us what to draw, when to draw it, and how to do it, and I just wanted to do my own thing. So basically I dropped it when I was getting into my senior years and focusing on more traditional education. Funnily enough, it was around that time that I dug into digital art really heavily. I found DeviantArt and I started drawing digitally using a trackpad and Microsoft Paint. Don't judge me, we all start somewhere. Eventually I found Psy, and a friend got me a free download link because my casual job at Charcoal Chicken was only paying $7.50 an hour for 3 hours twice a week. And if you're not Australian, I think it's kind of important to note that we don't really tip here at all, so I was making less than $50 a week. There was no chance I could buy an art program and a drawing tablet, not while I was paying for my prepaid sim from Video Easy and buying Dippin' Dots after school. I guess that's really only going to make sense to the 2000s kids from Australia actually, but whatever. The point is, art's an expensive hobby. But eventually I got my tablet, and not long after that I gained some traction as an artist through a couple chat and writing clients, and I started selling my work. Not often and not for much, but it was exciting and validating that people actually wanted to spend money on something that I could do, and I did that well into my early 20s. Like, I had real jobs the whole time and I was never making enough to sustain myself at all, not even as a teen whose best idea of a Friday night was staying in and playing Halo Reach while I listened to Muse until 3 a.m, but yeah, still. Then, around 2 years ago, I discovered the art side of YouTube. I don't know why it never occurred to me to search art on here, it just didn't, and never did. I was actually just recommended an Emily Artful video. And then I spent the next week watching her videos day and night, letting myself get sucked into the rabbit hole that was sketchbook storytime. Now, I'm an impressionable, suggestible person, and when I saw all these tips and tricks that Emily had to offer, I was like, damn, I need to go spend all of my money on new art supplies and do watercolour right now. In the past, it had terrified me because it seemed like a really unpredictable, difficult medium to work with that people tended to use exclusively for abstract art, never illustrations, and certainly not of pretty girls. Which, by the way, is almost exclusively my wheelhouse, and I'm not super diverse in that, but I do want to practice drawing more men, and yeah, you know what, that's a whole other tangent for a whole other video. Anyway, I realised you can use watercolour for pretty girls, and I tried to educate myself on how, collecting favourite new YouTubers along the way. I've always been self-taught, and this was the most I'd really tried to learn something directly rather than just playing with sketches and references until I'd picked up something I was happy enough with to publish. So that pretty much brings us up to the present, which is all to say I still consider myself pretty much a beginner watercolour artist. I've been doing art all my life, but majority of my experience is sketching with paper or using digital art, which is super different from watercolour. For that reason, I don't really think that tutorials are my place here, but if anybody's interested in the future, I can show you how I do something like hair or eyes, but a lot of the time I just sort of have a reference and panic layer paint until I come up with something that looks kind of almost like the reference I used. It's another thing I need to work on, that thing artists call a memory gallery, I think. I can draw without references, but it never comes out quite as well. So anyway, with this video, I showed my entire process from sketch to a finished product, and usually I'm really critical of my own art. I'm a perfectionist, but I really liked this one, and I've had it hanging around my desk for a while. When I see it, I still like it, which is good and super unusual for me, actually. Another thing I feel like I should mention is that this piece took me about 6 hours in total, I'd say. I don't know if you noticed, but my sleeves change in the video, and it's because in the first half I was working on it from afternoon to evening, and then I picked it up again the next morning to finish it. Something else to note is that the sketch at the beginning is the first time I ever drew this picture. I'm not really the type to concept sketch. I wish I was. I love those spreads and sketchbooks. But I've always found that my first sketch is the best sketch, and I hate when I can't replicate something that I loved from my sketchbook to some decent paper so I can make a final piece of it. I think I also suffer from sketch fatigue. Like, I'm not the sort of person who can sit for hours and hours and draw. I usually take heaps of breaks, and I rarely finish a piece from start to finish in one sitting, which kind of sucks too, especially when I have to force myself to keep going, and then I ruin whatever I'm working on because I'm tired and I should have just taken the damn break. As you can see, I use watercolours in heaps of layers, and if you've noticed the zooming, it's because I'm still learning how to film my art without scrunching over it and sticking my big fat head in the frame. That's certainly a process all of its own. It's like a whole other skill. I've filmed a few other videos since doing this one. I've been working on editing this for like, I don't know, way too long, which you might have noticed since it's been 4 months since I last uploaded? Yeah, sorry about that. I'm trying to be more consistent. I do plan to have videos every Sunday, but yeah, I've been working on this one for ages. Embarrassingly long for the quality of it, I'd say. But anyway, in those other videos, I think I'm improving with my posture and maybe even lighting, I'm hoping. I got a new phone, so maybe the video and audio will be a bit better. Hopefully the angle too, because I also found a cheap gooseneck tripod that can get a better top-down view as I work, which if you want to do YouTube videos where you're doing art, I super highly recommend them because it just makes life so much easier. I'm also thinking about getting a real microphone specifically for these videos, and I've been looking at the Snowball or Blue Yeti ones, I think that's what they're called. They're pretty much introductory range, but I think they'd probably do a better job than my Samsung. But I don't know how long that'll be before I pick one of those up because I'm currently saving to build a desktop PC. If you can't already tell, I spend pretty much all of my money on tech, art, and my cats, and I almost never regret it. Okay, so here I'm starting the hair, which is sort of important in my mind, even though it isn't the purpose of the piece. It's just because the reference was actually a wig model, and I chose it because I just adored her hairstyle. I'm a sucker for double buns, or like space buns? I don't know how many people call them that, but I've heard it before, and just like doing them in your own hair in real life, it is really hard to get them even in a painting. I don't think it turned out perfect. I didn't like the weird layering of her left bun created over the skin of her forehead, but it's alright, I guess. I also tried to add as much texture as possible with a mixture of swirling and like dabbing? Stabbing? That technique that you can see me doing? I don't know. I sort of let the brush half dry out and use the damp remainder of pigment to create the fluffiness. I hope it doesn't ruin the brush because I really like the texture and how it made the hair look, so I'm probably going to do it more in the future. Another artist on YouTube that I love is Tina, who goes by I'm a Wonder on YouTube. She inspired me to try line art with a brush, using softer colours that match the base rather than like a stark black line art, like the sort of thing you get from a fine liner. She uses India inks, I think, but since I don't have any of those, I just dampen my brush and then dip straight into the pan of my Regina's watercolours, and that was how I got the super saturated colours that were dark enough but also soft enough for line art. I used a different colour for each the skin and hair details and then the lips and the sheet wrapped around her, and I think that it's kind of hard to distinguish the difference between them in video, but I do think that it makes for an overall softer piece. Finally, I messed up the background by making it too blue, tried to lift the colour and go over it with a more purpley shade, and then use these really cool metallic watercolour paints to give her necklaces. Finishing touch was the white Posca pen and the white Sigma gel pen, I think it was. I'll list it down below. And voila, she's done. Here's some peel porn, which is also my favourite part. I really should try breaking the border sometime. I think that would look cool as heck. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you're a fan of my videos, and if you're ever interested in the products I'm using, they'll be listed in the description box below with links if I can find them. Thanks again. Bye pals.